What's up, House of Freedom?
Hi, House of Freedom.
Welcome back. We are so excited to have you guys back. We're excited to be back, and today is going to be a super awesome episode.
Yeah, because we just celebrated our 8th anniversary.
Yes, so
We have been married for 8 years.
it feels,
Insane.
it
Like,
doesn't feel that long at all. I feel like it's only been a few years, but then I think back of some of our earlier memories, and I'm like, man, that feels like a million years ago. So I
so
have,
we've been together for 9 years
yes.
and then married for 8 years.
So right now it's 8, 9, 10, because we've been married 8, we've been together 9, and I've been saved 10.
It's wild.
8, 9, 10. That's how I remember it. Praise the Lord.
So, with that being said, this episode is going to be just what we've learned in the last 8 years of marriage.
Yes. Yes. We have kind of like created a list of 8 things that we've learned. She came up with 4, I came up with 4. And so we haven't told each other what the other one has, and so we're going to share them. This is going to be like raw reaction completely to what she has and what I have and those kind of things. But we wanted to just share our thoughts on this because previously we used to do a lot of premarital counseling before people would get married, or even if they didn't get premarital counseling beforehand and they wanted it afterwards, we would take that step and do that with them. And so it's going to be a little bit from that plus what we've personally learned, because a lot of the things that we would talk about in premarital counseling were things that we had
Just like bases.
literally lived or already had talked about or already had thought about, like within our own marriage.
And then I also think it's important to remember that every marriage is different.
Yes, 100%.
However, most of the foundations are the same throughout marriages.
Right.
So when we're talking about these, keep that in mind. Every household dynamic is so different.
Right.
Everyone, but these are the bases.
Right.
Okay.
For sure. All right. So the 8 things that we've learned about marriage. You first. What's your first one?
You go first.
You go first. I want to hear yours first.
Okay. I guess this will tie in. So, number 1 for me is going to be communication. Over communicating on all of the things. I think for the last 8 years, if we did not have good communication, I feel like that could make or break a relationship.
Yes, for sure.
I'm talking over communicate, good, bad, and ugly, hearing the things that you don't want to hear, hearing about each other's temptations, hearing about what makes us upset, what brings us like peace, talking through the struggles, really. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I agree with that because my second one was actually on communication. So I'll kind of tie this in, but mine was about learning how each other communicate. Yes, it's super important, like you said, to over communicate about everything, communicate your feelings, all that kind of stuff, but also learn how each other communicate, because one thing that I feel like we have done incorrectly is, we've taken things that the other one is communicating out of context.
Yeah.
And so because of tone, because of, past experiences, just the way people communicate in general, it is super important to learn how each other communicates and learn that pretty early on right off the bat. Because I think something that I've learned honestly in the last couple of years is that an assumption that I tend to make is that she is being passive aggressive about whatever she's saying. So, for example, we had a conversation about getting pool keys because we live in a neighborhood where we have a community pool. And we were talking about getting pool keys. And then in passing one day, she was like, today would be a really good day for the pool.
Yeah.
And in my head, I took that as her being passive aggressive of like, we still haven't gotten pool keys and this is your fault and blah, 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 blah.
But I literally didn't say that. I just said it would be a great pool day.
And so I immediately got frustrated because I was offended, but I got frustrated because I felt like it was my fault. And essentially that comes from me in my childhood and the way I grew up and those kind of things, just always being in a passive aggressive environment.
Yeah.
You know, like not really saying what you meant, not really just being like confident and bold and being like, this is what I'm talking about, this is what I mean, da 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 da. It was really like always like guessing emotions, guessing how people felt, guessing how people were going to communicate that day and those kind of things. And so that has definitely been a learning curve in our communication
Yeah.
because I have to remember that's not how she grew up. She's very like, if she has a problem, she'll tell you. There are some things that I have to like get out of her, but for the
That's
most
just
part,
that comes with learning each other.
yeah, I mean, for the most part, though, if there's a problem, she'll tell you, you know, just kind of those things. And so I have to get out of that mindset. And honestly, it's been just in the last couple of years that I personally have been revisiting my own childhood and learning about myself because our children are starting to get into the elementary phase versus toddler phase. And there's certain things that I'm seeing that they're doing, the way I react, the way that I do things that I'm trying to consciously change.
Yeah.
And so it's causing me to revisit those things. And so that's why I felt like one of the biggest things for us in marriage that I've learned is learning how you communicate, not just
Yeah.
over communicating, but learning how you communicate because that will save you from like a million and one fights. 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And but also just like the transparency back to the communication, good, bad, and ugly. You have to be willing to accept whatever your spouse is saying.
Yeah.
So if it's a hard conversation, and I'm talking a hard conversation, you have to be willing to hear them out. Know, hey, we're having this conversation because I love you and we're trying to fix things, or we're trying to grow, or we're trying to figure whatever our life looks like because everyone's dynamic is so different. And
Yeah.
like I think even down to, I mean, again, like our struggles are the things that mentally are when I feel like we've had a lot of hard conversations throughout the year, but each phase of life is a different hard conversation. Like the hard conversations that we had in our first year of marriage look completely different than what they do now. Um, and so just recognizing that you have to be okay with the hard conversations in
Yeah.
communicating, and you cannot, so if Blake or myself comes to each other and saying, hey, we're struggling with this temptation or we're struggling with this thought or emotion, I can't expect my husband to come to me and then me jump down his throat because he's sharing a temptation of his or a struggle of his.
Yeah.
Or, and I mean, this is going to be the prime example. We're going to go through this real quick. This will be another story time for another time. But so our first year of marriage, I almost cheated on Blake. In my mind, I went there. And we talk about, and I'm saying this freely because it's not something that's like, I'm not shameful of it. He's not like we have talked about this a lot. Like, well, we use this in premarital counseling. I don't know. Be open and communicating with your husband and your wife. Um, he was gone for about 2 months, and I was just struggling really bad, and I had a lot of my past come up, and I went to my sisters in Christ, and they were the ones who kept me accountable and held me up in my moments of just being vulnerable and missing my husband. And so finally there was one night I just called Blake and I was like, I feel like a horrible wife. This is X, Y, and Z. This is what it is. And he got on a plane. He got on a plane to come back within the next day. But again, story time for another day. But that is the prime example of he had to be willing to hear that hard conversation in order for us to grow in our marriage. And I use that because I feel like, I mean, who wants to say that? That's so shameful. That's so like,
Yeah.
as a wife, I felt terrible. But if I wasn't over communicating how I felt and the things that were bothering me and the things that were tempting me, we wouldn't even have lasted our first year.
Yeah.
And here we are 8 years later because we had like over communicated
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, with the communication thing, and then we can move on. Is your wife or your husband, your spouse, is supposed to be your safe place.
Yeah.
And in a marriage, it is you're the one that knows the nitty gritty of how each other work, of how each other communicate, of how each other struggles and all the thing. And when she says that too, like, I don't want you guys to think that, we're like living in blatant sin and we're always struggling. We're just like falling apart. That's not the case.
No.
But it's because we're super open. And it's because we have an open line of communication in that place that we aren't living in sin. We aren't struggling with secret sin. We aren't
Yeah.
struggling with all these things because this is accountability. Like, this is accountability between her and I. And there's some things that in people that you just can't share with everyone. But when I say that,
Yeah.
it is what really brings you together, because it begins to, sometimes it feels like she has a problem, I have to fix it. And because, I love her, she loves me. And so when I bring her a problem, sometimes she feels like she has to fix it. And the reality is we've been in a place where I'm like, you don't have to fix it. I'm just trying to tell you. And it's reminding each other, like, hey, I don't need you to fix my problem. I just want to share my feelings with you. I don't need a solution right now. We don't have to come up, make a pro con list. We're just openly talking here.
Yeah.
Um, and so, to kind of like wrap that portion of those two things, really and truly, this is your safe place.
Yeah.
This is accountability. Yes, it's important to have brothers in Christ. Yes, it's important to have sisters in Christ because they're necessary. It's needed for sure. But this should be the place outside of your relationship with the Lord that each other know absolutely everything about one another.
Yeah.
Because if you can't have that trust in within your own home and in your own space, then you're missing out on a whole portion of marriage that makes it even that more intimate.
Yeah.
So
So you're number 2.
that was my number 2, was communication. That was my
Okay.
second thing on my
Okay, so
list.
then it's your turn. Oh, was that combined?
Yeah,
Okay, we
so
combined
you
it.
did your first one, and then
You
I
included
included
communication.
communication because it was my list it was number 2 on my list.
Okay. Okay, so it's my turn. Okay, cool. Family meetings.
Okay.
We have family meetings often. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about where it's looked different throughout the years, throughout whatever season in life we were in. I think now more than ever, as parents of 2, family meetings are so necessary to
Yeah.
know long-term goals, short-term goals, where we are, checking in where we are, but also checking in where our children are. So if you are newly married, have family meetings about your long-term and short-term goals,
Mm-hmm.
financially, within your relationship, within relationships and friendships that you're building, routines, things like that. Because if we don't lay it out, we live in utter chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And like, just for example, my daughter just started horseback riding lessons, and we have to have, like, okay, these are the days of the week that we have X, Y, and Z. And this is the day we have to clean our house and everything, because really it's having order and structure within our home. And if you can get that order and structure before having kids, it makes having kids a little bit more smoother. And it's something that I feel like we're learning, because
Yeah.
it's something we're just putting into place. We're new at this.
Well, and it's also like, I feel like with that, I didn't have that on my list, so I'm not going to add anything to that. But, just in general, constant, like you said, like taking an evaluation on your kids and things like that. Like, you're always noticing things about your kids and your children. And it's like, hey, like, I've been noticing, like, our daughter Mila is doing blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And maybe this needs to be something we implement, or maybe we need to do this. Um, and taking an evaluation of our own parenting and how everything is, talking about our day, um, within those things, but the family meeting, it may not happen every week. Um,
It needs to happen at least once
but
a month.
yeah, for sure to kind of like, okay, this is what this month looks like. This is our schedule. This is this. And I feel like those have been a heck of a lot more helpful for us than just like having many conversations throughout the week. Like, hey, also do this and also add this to your calendar. Also, like, we sit down and we look at everything together, and that helps tremendously.
Yeah, and especially because I find that a lot of parents carry many hats. We have different businesses, different things that we're involved in.
Yeah.
We have church, we have just we want to make sure that we are stewarding our time well,
Right.
but also stewarding our house well because of course this is House of Freedom. If you want to change a generation, it
It
starts in
starts in
your
your home.
home, and if your home is not in order, nothing else is going to be able to just overflow in the peace of the Lord and really just have alignment with your life
Yeah.
because I'm telling you, family meetings is where it's at. Lay it out. Maybe we can do another episode about like family meetings. But
Yeah.
so that was my number two.
Good. Okay. So my number one on my list was pursuit.
Okay.
And I was literally talking to a friend the other day, and she was like, you have got to teach my husband how to do this because I literally um, ask about my birthday every year and he just doesn't plan anything or plan like a birthday party or anything. Like I always end up planning it myself and those kind of things. And with that, I would just say, like, just make sure that you're constantly listening to your spouse. Make sure that you're constantly, it is a lot. Marriage is a lot of work. That's why a lot of marriages fail because people don't want to put in the work.
Yeah.
But being so intentional about, learning the things that they like, what they don't like, what they do on a daily basis, what would make their life easier. One thing that I learned, yes, Anissa likes shiny shoes and things like that. But tons of materialistic things are not always like the best way to go when it goes to be, giving her gifts. Um, I, on a personal level, always try to get her some sort of outfit or shoes or something along those lines when it is time to give her presents. Um, just because she loves like adding things to her collection, and her style and her fashion is pretty important to her because it's one way um, that she expresses herself and how she feels in her. That's like an outlet for her creativity, but she also is very practical, and so she likes practical gifts. Like for example, this year for her birthday, she's asked for a Roomba vacuum cleaner that will vacuum our house
I
for
am
us.
done sweeping.
Um, and so those are some practical things, and there are a few other things and other ideas that I've had, that I've shared with people. But like, when it comes to giving them like a little like, hey, like I love you, and I just wanted you to know that I'm thinking of you. Um, I always feel like the more intentional, the better.
Yeah.
If it costs you something, not just dollars, but time, energy, like work, effort, then it's the best.
Yeah.
Um, for example, I always think about one thing that is a word right now that's within our staff and whatnot with the ministry that we're involved in. Um, is like, not just waiting on God to do the thing, but
Preparing.
like what is already in your hand.
Yeah.
And so, something that's always already in my hand is I love to decorate and create and those kind of things. And so, for example, like this past weekend, we had a women's conference and we had some family and friends come stay with us. And both of us kind of worked on this together, but one thing that I did like for her specifically is all of the girls that came and visited got like pajamas and a makeup bag
Got
and
him
like
like a little
random little
gift.
things like a little gift. But in Anissa's specifically, I found a cup that didn't just match the other girls, but it was more like I was like, okay, Anissa would actually use this cup, and this is intentional and this is something. I picked the pajamas that I gave everyone. I gave her some very specific ones because I was like, this is her her personality. This is who, like, I feel like this expresses her. Um, and it's just being intentional about the
Yeah.
little things. It doesn't just have to be on Mother's Day or, your anniversary or birthdays or whatever, but just in general, like, to me, it's like showing the other person that you're showing up for them in a
Yeah, it's the
different
small
way.
things.
Yeah.
And even just real quick going on to the pursuit and being intentional is it's so important because I'm not the same person I was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And Blake's not the same person he was 8 years ago. We are constantly changing as humans, and if we don't change and grow together, we'll grow apart. And so in that pursuit, if I'm not pursuing my husband and he's not pursuing me, it's easy to just be like, "Oh, I didn't know you like that. Oh, I didn't know that was a thing for you." And it's
Yeah.
super easy to do that because you're growing apart versus growing together. And when I think about that, like it's also really important to know you are not meant to stay the same. Because if you're staying the same, you're stuck. And that's a whole nother conversation. But we are supposed to grow and we are supposed to change as the years go by.
Yeah.
But again, it's so important that we pursue and grow together versus growing apart. And those small things do matter in the long run because, again, if you asked me 8 years ago, I would have not told Blake to buy me a Roomba.
Yeah. And I think it's also like, realistically, depending on where you're at in life and what stage of life you're in, we're in toddler kindergarten phase of our children, and having a date night isn't always like possible. When we have babysitters, amazing, awesome, but having that isn't always available to us. Just to be like, oh, let's go on a date night once a week. Like, I love that couples do that. I love that they're able to do that. I love that they have people around them and family that are able to do that. But just in
Yeah.
this season of life right now, we're not in that space. So we're finding other ways to pursue each other and being intentional about that, because there 100% has been moments in our marriage where Anissa has looked at me and is like, I feel like we're roommates. Like, we're distant, we're not communicating, we're missing the mark, and I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want to be just roommates.
Yeah.
We're in this covenant, we've gotten married, we've been in this marriage for 5, 6, 7 years, and there's no reason we should be feeling like roommates.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just miss it. You miss even that feeling. You're like, I didn't when she brings that to me, I'm like, we have been so busy and my head has been everywhere that I didn't even realize that that's how this felt.
Yeah.
Like,
Which actually leads into my next one.
perfect.
Okay. So that is my number 3 is to have fun. Because it is so easy to
Yeah.
get so caught up in the mundane and so caught up in just the daily tasks that we have
Mhm.
as parents, as individuals, as jobs, homemaking, all these things that we just forget to simply have fun.
Yeah.
We forget, like, hey, I married my best friend and let's have fun together.
Right.
When's the last time that you guys laughed? When's the last time that you had joy? When's the last time that you genuinely looked at each other and said, "Gosh, I love doing this with them."
Yeah.
And if you forget to have fun, it's not fun anymore.
Right.
And I don't want to be in a marriage where I am just going day by day by day and I'm genuinely not happy or I'm not having fun with my spouse because yes, I love my kids and I'm loving every moment of their toddlerhood and things like that. But in 18 years, I'm going to look at my husband and be an empty nester. And if I'm not having fun with my spouse now, what does it look like in 18 years?
Right.
And I don't want to get to that place where I'm like, oh, we're just relearning each other. No, like, you don't have to do that. Like,
Yeah.
have fun with your spouse.
Grow with each other in that pursuit and have fun. That's
Yeah.
really good. Yeah. Is there any more with that? Like, have fun.
No, just have fun with your spouse.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know,
I
kiss
feel
each
like
other,
it's,
make out in the kitchen. Like,
yeah,
um,
we're in a space where our toddlers
she's like,
like,
ew, mom, you better not be
oh,
kissing
that's
dad.
gross. And I'm like, you guys.
My kids are a whole mess,
Yeah. Yeah. I
but they're
feel
fun.
like it is important, especially with our phase of marriage where we have toddlers and we have young kids. And also just like we're not necessarily done having kids. unless the Lord's like, hey, we're not gonna have any more.
I'm not pregnant, but I do want more.
Yeah, I just think it is important to have fun because you do get in spaces where you're stressed out, where you're like, I cannot take this one kid anymore. I can't handle them. It's like, it's the
Yeah.
most. And then you forget. You're just constantly stressed, constantly like doing the thing. And
And then that's what makes parenting not fun and it makes
yeah,
marriage not fun. And I don't know. We live one life.
yeah,
Like, might as well have fun with our spouse, have fun with the Lord. That it doesn't have to be so serious.
hmm,
It really doesn't. And
yeah,
I know that the world is crazy, but it does not have to be so serious. Like, have fun, have joy. Joy is a fruit of the spirit. Go listen to our joy podcast.
yeah.
Um, so your next one.
Okay, so this is one that I personally am still like, I feel like I'm working on it. I'm continuously like, I feel like we're getting better at it, but I'm still working on it personally. Um, is intentionally hear the Lord for your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yes, it's important to pray with your spouse and like, seek the Lord with your spouse and those kind of things. But on a separate level, I remember I was thinking about this. The Lord had brought this to my memory the other day. Um, that when we were dating and we were engaged, we kind of grew up. I mean, like we got saved and were trained and grew up in a ministry that had a very prophetic culture.
Yeah.
And so hearing the Lord was something everybody was doing all the time, and everybody was like, "Oh, God, a prophetic word, or whatever." But one thing that we had started doing, we started hearing the Lord specifically for each other, and there were multiple times where Anissa was getting dreams and visions at nighttime about, us together and traveling and ministry and random things that the Lord was going to do in our lives. And I even remember she was telling the girls that came over for the women's conference this weekend that there was a dream that she had way before, and it was like 2020 or something. And
Write your dreams down.
you had a dream about you were standing by an ocean, you were on the shore, and like the waves were happening, but she was just like okay with it, and it was just like she was steady in it. And then all of a sudden, like these two kids, a boy and a girl, came and like grabbed onto her legs and was holding on to be stable. And that was in 2020 when we were pregnant with Mila, way before we knew who Mila was or if she was going to be a girl or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then we ended up having Ezra, which is born a girl. And so it's literally like the Lord was like kind of giving us a hint, but also like it's something that we intentionally need to do to just be
Yeah.
like, hey, like you don't always have to wait for a pastor or a leader or a crazy moment in the Lord at a church. Like all those are amazing and do those things, but also be like, hey, babe, like, what are you hearing the Lord say about me? Um, this is what I'm hearing the Lord say over you. And, you
But that
know,
also comes with stewarding your house well.
100%. I mean, you're going to have to steward your own relationship with the Lord to be able to do that. However, I feel like if anybody is going to be able to speak something into your life, it should be your spouse.
Yeah.
And again, that is something that I'm currently working on just to be more intentional about it. I will say like I have told her some things that I've heard or I felt over our marriage or random things like that. But I'm working on like, hey, this is what I heard from the Lord from you for you today. Like this is what I am listening for, or this is what I feel like, or this is what I hear the Lord speaking over this thing. Um,
Yeah, and I love that you said that because I have seen where it's really hard for wives to trust their husband in the spiritual aspect
yeah,
because we're not what you do on your daily life, your daily encounters with the Lord, it matters because it shifts our viewpoint of, hey, I can receive from my husband,
yeah,
or hey, my husband can receive from me, and we can be each other's helpmate not only in all of the practical areas, but also spiritually. And so when you see your spouse pursuing the Lord, you can tend to build more trust with their ear to hear the Lord, because ultimately he is the one who oversees our house.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's just biblical order, is it's him, me, children. I mean, obviously God first, but um just learning that, hey, both accountability on both ends. Both of you walk with the Lord.
Yeah.
Both of you have daily encounters with the Lord. So when that time comes to speak into each other's life, we can look at each other and just cognitively know, like, my husband's been with the Lord. My wife's been with the Lord.
Yeah.
And I can trust that they're hearing the Lord.
Well, and I think it's also too, and I kind of say that because one thing I feel like we both really do well is we hear the Lord for our children. Because obviously they aren't fully there where they can like hear the Lord or know that they're hearing the Lord or those kind of things. And so I feel like we're always constantly like praying certain things over them or helping them through situations, those kind of things. But when it comes to marriage, sometimes parents forget to do that for each other. And then also on the other end, as a man, if you're a minister, your first ministry is your home, and you are the priest over your own home first. And so you can pray and prophesy over your congregation, but you really need to be praying and prophesying over your family first.
Yeah.
But also, if you're not in ministry and you're just kind of, following the Lord in general, um, that should be a standard for you. This is a ministry. Our families are ministries, and we have to view
Steward.
them that way and steward them in that way, because we're going to, again, going back to, we're going to grow apart, and we're
Yeah.
not going to grow together in the Lord. We're going to steward something that isn't growing the right direction. And
Yeah.
so I think that was mine.
That was so
That's
good.
super important.
Is it my last one? You've already said all of yours?
No, I have one more. So
Okay.
after this, I'll do mine.
Um what you speak into your marriage matters, and what others speak into your marriage matters. If someone doesn't like my spouse, you don't like me.
Mm,
And I am not saying that it is okay to disconnect from people. It is okay to disconnect from those who are speaking ill into your marriage. Um, and I hate that I even have to say that. However, we have had it happen in our lives. We've had it happen where people just speak like ugly things over our marriage,
yeah.
or um just things that are not necessary, and where they talk bad about my husband or they talk bad about me but still want to be one of our friends. But ultimately the thing is we are one.
Yeah.
If you don't like my husband, you don't like me.
Yeah.
And that there's not like any sugarcoating that, and we are a package deal. And if you can't respect both of us, if you can't have a hard conversation with both of us, if you can't just honor both of us, then you can't honor one of us.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. You're a team, and when you work together as a team, I don't need my husband thinking like, oh, they just spoke X, Y, and Z into our marriage, and you're still friends with them. Like that. Those are real thoughts that people can have,
Yeah.
or we can have about each other and our friendships and the relationships that we hold. And so I think it's really important to like make sure the relationships that you have around you are for both you and your husband and not just for one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. And that kind of also goes in with my last one too, because my last one was, as a couple, steward community. One thing that I feel like in our marriage has been super important is community to grow with, and to like, hey, this is what we're dealing with in our marriage, and da da da, and like going back and forth. And of course, there's some things that you just can't share with everybody, but there are some things that you can like walk through with other couples and walk through within your marriage and
Yeah.
things like that. And it's not even just like so you can pour into other people, but it's just like so you can, iron sharpens iron. And so that isn't just talking about just men being with men and women being with women. It's talking about like is the body and community as a whole. So I think it's super important to steward community. You need to steward a vast community in a space where like You have people that are older than you in your community. You have people that are younger than you in your community. Um,
People who have more kids than you, people who have less
because
kids.
that builds your marriage is the community. You know, like
Yeah.
I remember we had a family in our community when we lived in Texas that had like 5 kids. They have 6
We
kids
had
now.
2, and they if they're listening to this, they know who they are.
Yeah.
But we would invite them over, and I kid you not, the kids outnumbered us.
When you saw that school bus pull up and you're like,
It's an
oh,
ongoing
the
joke, and
whole
so they'll
family is
laugh when
here.
they hear this.
But I'm just like, you got 6 kids now. You gonna have to buy a school bus. You gonna have to buy a
But let me
whole.
tell you, they steward their family so well.
Yes, and I think it's like it's super important again to have all of the different pieces of community. And I will say with that, you don't always have to take on everything that everybody else is doing into your own marriage, but it's good to have variety and differentiation between all of you because it strengthens yours. You'll be like, "Hey, I don't love how they do that, and I love that we steward that well." But
You glean
also
from the good.
they steward this thing better than we're doing, and so I would love to do what they're doing in
Yeah.
that area. Because it gets tiresome to just listen to marriage podcasts all the time or go to marriage conferences and all those things. It's not always possible, and so like having other couples in your community is one of the best ways to do it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a free marriage conference right there because you have so many opinions, so many thoughts, so many different types of marriages. Even just again, there's a couple of couples in our community now that are a lot older than us that have like 20, 30 years of experience in their marriage and their in the thing. And so being able to glean from that and being like, okay, well, how do you do this? Well, how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
And I mean, you'll always have different types of answers, and sometimes it might not be an answer that you want to bring in
And
bring
that's
in for your marriage. But
and that's where it goes back to every marriage is different, and you
yeah.
glean to what works for your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything that we just talked about, glean from what, hey, we could do that. Hey, that would not work for us.
Eat the meat, spell the bones.
Yes,
Yeah.
because again, we have some amazing couples around us
Yeah.
that are thriving in their marriage, but they're still doing stuff that might not work for us, and that is 100% okay.
Yeah.
To know that that's how the Lord uniquely made us. Um,
And it just goes to show like it doesn't matter how much advice you get. Not every marriage is blueprint, like cookie
cookie
cutter.
cutter, no.
Here, this, and this, and here's the 5-step way to heal your
Well, because
marriage.
I was talking to a friend just a few weeks ago, and they were talking about how her and her husband met, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think that I could ever do that. I don't think I was like, that is such a unique way to meet someone. And I was just like, she was like, yeah, it's not for everyone. And I was like, yeah, married an ex drag queen isn't for everyone. And she just looked at me and was like, yeah. And it was super comical, but that's the perfect example of saying
Yeah.
they're having a thriving marriage, and that's something that I may not do, but something that they're doing is working because they're
Yeah.
thriving.
Yeah.
And it was just really funny. It was a really funny conversation because she
Yeah.
was just like, I can't believe you said that.
Yes. So 8 years of marriage, we've learned a lot. There's so much more that we could talk about. There's so much more that we could go into. Um, because it's hard to just even get it down to 8 things.
It
But
is because this literally could be forever.
yeah, this
But
could be a
we'll
forever
touch more
podcast
on some marriage stuff.
for sure. And it has just been such an honor and a privilege to have all of you guys be a part of our community, be a part of the House of Freedom, and we just want to thank you.
Yes.
We thank you guys so much for listening and just constantly coming back and wanting more content. We're so appreciative. It again, we're speaking out of a space of what we've learned, and we've learned the hard way, and we just want to be able to help people and help people steward the House of Freedom. And
Yeah.
just like we've always said, there's 3 specific ways that you can help steward your House of Freedom.
Daily encounter.
Have a daily encounter. Have that daily encounter with the Lord every day. He is your
Non-negotiable.
daily bread, not weekly bread, every other day bread.
It's
That's your
every
daily
day
bread.
individually.
Yes.
Second one is
Pick up your cross, deny your flesh, and follow Jesus. This is so huge because there are days in your marriage that you're like, I have to love this person. They stink, they're annoying, and I'm tired of them, but I'm going to love them today. And
pick up that cross and die to yourself.
it is true. Pick up that cross and deny to your flesh and follow Jesus, because that is super, super important.
Yeah. Thirdly is you are not battling against flesh and blood.
Yes, this is a spiritual battle.
It's a spiritual battle.
And when you understand that concept, you can begin to really understand the things going on around you. It's a spiritual thing,
Yeah.
and there's something going on. So the best thing to do is, what do? You pray, you get in, and you have those daily encounters. And it all becomes a circle because it all connects with one. To be able to steward your house of freedom. Again, if you want to change a generation, it starts in your home. It starts with you. You want to see your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren's lives changed. It starts right now, because what you do now is going to affect the next 3 generations.
So don't forget to like, share, subscribe,
Yes.
and I can't wait for our next episode.
Yes, be looking out for all new things, new episodes. We have some projects in the works that we're super excited about. On a personal level, and then even with House of Freedom. So make sure that you're subscribed and that you're following all of our social media pages, because you're not going to want to miss it. Thank you guys so much. We love you, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.